Class. My name is Miss Shaw. Today I will be talking about the French Revolution. My presentation will last approximately 5 minutes, and should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask me at the end. The French Revolution lasted from 1789 to 1794. However, there were a number of events prior to this that acted as a catalyst towards the revolution. We also can see similarities between this revolution and others, like the American. As well as if we relate it to Britain Crane's 10 motives that are present during revolution, we can see strong similarities. For me though, the most important motives, the causes behind this revolution were concerned with economic, political and social. Economic was largely concerned with the government's inability to organise its finances. With political, it was largely concerned with absolute monarchy, with King Louis having the divine right to rule. And social was concerned with the inequality of people, the oppression due to the three estates. Okay, so let's start with economic. If we relate it to Crane's list, it's number 10, where the government couldn't organise its finances correctly. Now, this was largely due to Louis XVI and his wife Antoinette's luxury spending. They lived outside of Paris in the Palace of Versailles and spent lavishly, so much so while people were starving. There's a famous quote where Antoinette says, "Give them cake," when they were starving and couldn't afford bread. So you had their luxury spending and the hatred towards them grew, as well as a large debt due to war. Evidence of this was in the 18th century. You saw most of Europe by 1770s colonised. This put increasing pressure on the French economy, especially as in 1778 they aided the American war against the British. So the economy is now going bankrupt. There is no money coming into the French economy to support the growing population. So what does Louis try to do? What is his solution? Well, it was to increase the tax. But this tax system was inadequate and unfair. Most nobles were exempt from taxes, whereas the third estate, the majority of the people, 97% of the population, the middle class, had to pay. Interestingly, there is a poster at the time showing a peasant, a farmer, giving a piggyback to the nobles and the clergy. So the outcome, you had this growing anger, this unrest, hunger, the government unable to support its people. So Louis, in 1787, called together the Assembly of Nobles to address the French financial crisis. His aim was to tax the nobles, the people that actually could pay, bringing money into the economy. However, he was unsuccessful. The nobles obviously said no, and as King Louis was often regarded as a weak ruler, backing down from many of his decisions, he stepped down, causing much anger within the people. It resulted in a total lack of confidence in his power to rule the country. And so people began to riot. The revolution had begun. By 1789, Louis had lost control and then resulted in him giving up the power to Gilbert Monta. So he was now in control of law and order in the country. And he was a supporter of the revolution. And so the outcome of many changes in favour of giving land back to the people, of getting less control of the church. In fact, so much so that the colour red is a result of him putting it in the tricolour flag to show his support to the French Revolution. My second motive is concerned with political. Crane number 2, where people feel restless and held down by unacceptable restrictions in society, religion and the government. Now this is because for centuries, French had been ruled by a regime of monarchy, aristocrats and the church, with Louis XVI believing it was his divine right to rule, absolute monarchy. Now, what was happening in terms of the method, the evidence at this stage? Well, we had the Age of Enlightenment, which questioned both tradition and faith using science. Its emphasis was on freedom of people, of thought, of speech. And for the first time, the king's right to rule was questioned, as well as the church's wealth and their influence to run the country. Louis had already lost confidence. People of lower social classes wanted more. And so the outcome was to form a new government. And by 1970s, we had three separate parties, with the right being royalists, wanting a constitutional monarchy, the left being radicalists, wanting more change, and then we had the National Party, the middle party, wanting to write a new constitution. My last point is social, where number 4, people begin to think themselves as belonging to a social class, and there is a growing bitterness. You had 3 estates, the first only being 1% of the clergy, the second being of nobles of 2%, and the rest 97%, and there was this massive divide between them. So now looking back at similarities, as I mentioned before, between other revolutions, the Greek for me is most similar, as there are similar motives. For example, one being the social class system, where the poorer people working had to send money back to the motherland. So those are lots of similarities. Thank you very much for listening, and should you have any questions, please do not hesitate to ask. Thank you.